Welcome and hello. This is a video lesson in Python for Water Resources titled User Input and Data Validation. In this lesson, we're going to talk about data validation and user input, specifically using the input function, which is a terminal entry function that returns a string. In the previous lesson, which was lesson 10, we covered reading and writing files, and we talked about reading in data from text files, .csv files, JSON files, and Excel files. So this lesson is a little bit of a continuation of that lesson with regard to the data validation. What you see on the screen here is my first example where we're using this input function. But in addition to using the input function and those files I mentioned, I'm just going to go on the record and say you can also use Python to get data into your program from command line arguments, database data, APIs, user interfaces such as web applications, as well as sensors and hardware such as retrieving or reading live data. What's on the screen is our very first example, so let's get started. In this basic input and print example, what we're doing is asking the user to enter a reservoir storage in acre feet, and we're going to print that out as a string. There's no validation happening yet, so let's just go ahead and save this. I have the terminal window down here at the bottom, so let's go ahead and I'm going to run my script.py. Okay, it's asking me to enter a reservoir storage in acre feet. I'm going to go ahead and say 50,000. And boom, that is what it echoes out to me. There's no validation. In fact, it would probably echo out anything I wrote. It's not going to check to see if it's a number or not. So if I ran it again, I could say water, and it would just print out water right here. So that's how that works. Next, we're going to do another example, which I've pasted in right here. Slightly more involved. I'm going to enter the precipitation, the total depth in inches for the year 2031 through 2033. And then I'm going to sum up the values and then print out the total. So I'm going to save that, come down here to the terminal, clear, and then run. So it's asking me to enter the total precipitation for the year 2031. I'm going to say it was 14 inches. And then in 2032, I'll say it's 15 inches. And then in 2033, I'll say it is 16 inches. So what it gave me is the total precipitation is 141,516 inches, because what it's doing is it's treating these inputs as strings, and then it is adding them together. So the plus operator is not only addition, but it's also concatenation if the data type that you're dealing with here is a string. So the way around that is to pass those values using the float wrapper. So we could do that right up here in this line where we get it on the same line as the input, or we could do it right down here where we're adding it up. So I'll just do it down here. I'll say float and then close parentheses. And then same thing right here for the second and third terms, float, open parentheses, and close parentheses. Okay, save that and then clear. And let's run this again. So now I'm going to say precipitation is the same numbers. I'll say 14, 15, and 16. And now it correctly returns and calculates 45 inches. Okay, next up, I got another example prepped and ready to go. I just pasted it in. This time we're calculating the peak flow rate, the peak discharge in CFS. C times I times A, that is the input right here. Let's give this a shot. So I'm going to clear that. I need to save this, and let's run. All right, so enter the runoff coefficient. I'll say it's 0.65. Next is enter the rainfall intensity. I'll say it's 0.45 inches per hour. And then the area in acres, I'll say is 50 acres. That gave me a peak runoff discharge of 14.74 cubic feet per second. I'm going to remove the last two lines right here. And in its place, what I'm going to do is also ask the user to provide the units that it wants the calculation for the peak discharge to be calculated for. So now I'm going to be prompting it to enter in the CFS, GPM, or MGD. These are three different units of flow in the US customary unit system. And then if it is CFS, GPM, or MGD, then that particular equation is used to calculate Q, the peak runoff discharge. All right, so let's go ahead and do the same calculation we did before. So I'll save that down here in the terminal, I'll clear, and then run. So I'm going to say 0.65 for the runoff coefficient, 0.45 is the rainfall intensity, and then the drainage area I'll say is 50 acres. Now it's asking me for my units, so I'm going to type in CFS, and we should get the same number as before, 14.74 CFS. There it is. So that is correct. Let's try one of the other units just to make sure it works. How about MGD for million gallons per day. So let's run that once again. I'll use the same numbers for my inputs, 0.65, 0.45, 50, and then MGD and enter. All right, 9.52 million gallons per day. So far, so good. Now it's time to wreak havoc and break the system and basically test out some of the vulnerabilities because there's not any validation yet here for goofy input. So I'm going to run it again. So let's go ahead and run. I'm going to type in the same number, 0.65, 0.45, 50. And then for units, I'm going to put a space and then CFS and then enter. And now we have an error message. Why? Because this units was saved as not CFS, but space CFS. And there's no space CFS as an option right here of the three different units. Therefore, when it went to print Q, it didn't know what Q was. That's what it's wondering about right here. Name Q is not defined. Okay, so one way around this is to add a strip method at the end of the units line. So units right here, I'm going to just come over here to the end, type in strip. In some languages, this is the same thing as trim. What it does is just remove any of the white space before and after the input data. So let's go ahead and save that and then provide the same input with that space CFS. So yeah, let's go ahead and run it. 0.65, 0.45, 50, and then I'm going to go space, 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 CFS, and enter. All right, so that took care of that. 14.74 CFS. It removed those extra spaces. CFS was all that was saved for our units variable, which matched up right here, and here was the calculation for it. Okay, I'm going to break it one more time. This time I'm going to use capital letters. So it's clear and run 0.65, 0.45, 0.45, there we go, 50. And then instead of CFS, I'm going to say it is CFS. And now we have another problem because this is case sensitive. It's looking for a lowercase CFS right here. Another way around this is just to type in lower. So what that's going to do is convert the string to lower, and it's going to remove the white space. So the strip and the lower operators or methods are working on this user input before it's saved to the units variable. Right, so I'm going to save that. Come down here and run it. 0.65, 0.45, 50 is the acres. And then let's go space, 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 capital C, F, and have a lowercase s and a few more spaces and enter. And it looks like it was recognized as cubic feet per second, despite the goofy input we provided. That's just an example of how data validation works when asking or prompting your user to provide you information and writing code. All right, next we're going to talk about validation using the if statement. We talked about that in an earlier lesson, how the if statement works. I'm going to remove everything over here, also clear my terminal. I'm going to move the terminal off to the side here, just because this is a little bit longer example, which I have pasted in. I'll give myself some room. All right, so this is it right here. First, we're going to be prompting the user for P and CN. P is the precipitation depth. CN is the curve number. It's this curve number here, which we're going to validate right here. We're going to test to make sure the curve number is between 30 and 98 inclusive. So if it's less than 30 or above 98, we're going to return this error message and we're going to terminate the script. So it's not going to calculate the runoff depth or print anything out. Let's go ahead and give this a shot. So we'll save this, give myself a little bit more room over here, clear and run. All right, enter a rainfall depth, I'll say 3 inches. Enter a curve number. Okay, so I'm going to try to break it. I'm going to say 20, and that's less than 30. And boom, here is my error message. Error curve number must be between 30 and 98. All right, so that worked. Clear this and run it again. Let's go with a rainfall depth of 3 inches again. This time I'm going to say that the curve number is above 98. Let's make it 150. We get the same error message. Let's now give it a valid example. So 3 inches for precipitation. How about 65 for our curve number? And enter, and that calculates to 0.51 inches of runoff depth. Next up is validation using a while loop. This is similar to the if statement type of validation, but I'm going to delete this for now. We're still going to be asking the user for the curve number right here. I'm going to give myself some more room and then write a while through loop that will not exit until we get a valid value here. So I'm going to say while true. I come down here to the next line, give myself an indent. I'm asking the user to provide a curve number, and then below that on lines 7 through 10, what I just pasted in here is it's going to be checking basically the same condition as before. So this is still an if statement, but it's within a while true loop. And if the curve number is less than 30 or greater than 98, we're going to provide the same error message. Otherwise, it's going to break, which means that we have a valid curve number saved in our variable cn, and we can continue on with the rest of the calculations. So I'm going to save that, come over here and run. It's asking for the rainfall depth. There's no validation on this, so I could really type anything, but I'll type in a 3 inches. Curve number, let's go ahead and give it 20. So that's less than 30. That's not going to work. It says error. Curve number must be between 30 and 98 inclusive. Let's give it 150. Same error message as before. Okay, let's give it 65. And boom, it calculated our runoff depth correctly and printed that out. The advantage of this method was we didn't have to rerun the program every time an error message occurred. It just continued to prompt the user for a correct number until it got it. All right, the last example here for data validation is using regular expressions. So I'm going to remove everything and paste in the next example here. I'm going to save this. In fact, I'm going to move the terminal back down here to the bottom of the screen. Okay, then let's clear that out. What we have here is we are importing the regular expression module and asking the user to provide a gauge ID. Now, US gauge IDs are supposedly 8 characters long. The /D here represents the numeric character 0 through 9. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I'm just going with it. The pattern right here, this is where we define our regular expression. And then if the user input for gauge ID matches that pattern, then it's going to say we have a valid gauge ID that's been entered. Otherwise, it's going to just print that it's a invalid gauge ID. Okay, this is really just scratching the surface of how regular expressions work. It's one of the simplest examples I can think of. But what we're doing by defining this pattern is saying that this character right here, this represents the beginning of the string. The /D represents a numeric character, like I said, 0 through 9, any of those 10 characters. And then 8 right here in the squiggly brace means that there needs to be exactly 8 of the previous element. And then after that, the $sign represents the end of the string or the end of the pattern. So that's a simple example. I'm going to save that and then come down here and right. So it's asking me for the USGS gauge ID. I'm going to type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, enter. Invalid gauge ID. Okay, let's try that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we have a valid gauge ID. Let's try something else. How about I'll just type in water. Okay, so of course that didn't work. Let's type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, A. Not 8, A. And that is no good. No surprise there. Right, and that is it for this lesson where we talked about user input and data validation, specifically using the input function within Python. We talked about converting strings to floats. We used a couple of the methods like strip and lower, as well as validation involving the if statement, while true loops, and regular expressions.